Hey there, guys. I know it's been a while since my last review, but I'm back. I had a few problems to deal with and a couple health issues I was going through, but now that that's dealt with, I have a few different reviews in the works. However, while I was dealing with all of that, I ended up picking up a really cool game in a Humble Bundle, and so I wanted to share that with you, and that's why I'm doing a quick review of Moonlighter. So Moonlighter's been out a while. I'm kind of late to the game compared to other people. I have a number of friends who, when I told them, I was like, whoa, I love this game. They're like, oh yeah, that's a cool game. But Moonlighter is this really cool indie game that I feel like blends one of those anime shop games with dungeon crawl and a little bit of like town building, Harvest Moon style stuff. For me, this game really sucked me in. It grabbed me for like a lot of hours, and I found myself suddenly realizing that the sun had set after starting the game just after getting home from work. To give you sort of a basic here, the game is set in this town that got big because of these dungeons. These dungeons are like your generic anime fantasy story. A magical dungeon appeared, and then people went into them trying to conquer them. Essentially, adventurers came to the town to conquer these dungeons. They sold the items to merchants, and merchants resold to the common folk, making a bunch of money. However, adventurers died, and apparently that's not common. I guess this isn't your standard D&D setting. So the adventurers died, too many of them died, and everyone closed down the dungeons. This, of course, meant no money for the merchants, so they all went out of business. You play as a gentleman by the name of Moonlighter, at least that's his last name, and he runs a shop, get this, called Moonlighter. Now, I know this is probably going to catch you off guard. It caught me off guard. I totally didn't expect it, didn't see it coming at all, but see, the character moonlights as an adventurer, sneaking into the dungeons to get loot to sell in his own failing item shop. As you earn money, you can upgrade things such as the town, or your own item shop, or your equipment. You can also buy potions, etc. Now, mechanically speaking, the goal of the game is to loot these dungeons. Every night, you can go sneak into whatever dungeon you have open that you want to go into and loot items. And then during the day, come back and sell them in your shop. When your character sleeps, I have no clue, but that's the basic concept. Now, when you're within the dungeon, you have limited bag space. The items can be cursed so that there's certain effects that happen based on where they are in your bag. You can just escape out of the dungeon. There are two options. You have a pendant. It uses a certain amount of gold and it'll just take you out. The next time you go in the dungeon, you start back from the beginning. Or you can use this other one that costs way more, but it opens a portal, like the town scroll portals from Diablo. This way you can go sell items in your shop and then pick back up where you left off. I found that I used this a lot because it helped me progress the dungeon. I'd do a floor, get all of the loot, be right outside the boss room, and then I would go back to town, sell all my items, and go back in. Every dungeon has two bosses and a final boss. The goal being to clear it so that the next dungeon opens up. If you clear the golem dungeon, then the forest opens up. Clear the forest, then the desert opens up, so on and so forth. Each dungeon has items worth significantly more than the last, and has new enemies to deal with and different things to find. You can also find little creature eggs and hatch them, giving you little minions that you can take into the dungeon. I really like the helicopter guy. He picks up items for you and attacks people for pretty good damage. The levels are semi-random in that the rooms are very specific. There are only so many different rooms there can be, but the layout is kind of random. The only thing that is 100% never random is the healing pool, which can heal you up to a certain amount, always appears in the direction of the boss room. It doesn't mean that the next room is the boss room, but it means somewhere very close to that room is the boss room. As for the item shop side of things, so like I said, you earn money and you can upgrade the town buying the weapons dealer, buying the potion dealer, buying the guy who gives you stuff to decorate your shop, but you can also spend it on the shop itself, buying better beds, a better till, things to that effect, upgrading the shop's size, and this has different effects. And for some reason, having a nicer till makes people tip you more. I guess when they buy 20 grand's worth of stuff, they decide to give you another 20 grand because you got a really nice golden till. I don't know, capitalism or something. The bed is probably the most useful thing. It just gives you straight up extra health when you first go into the dungeon. You can't heal that health, but it can definitely be useful. The shop size is super valuable. You get more table space, and eventually you get a glass-covered shelves. This is important because thieves will sneak into your shop after you first upgrade it. The thieves will wander around until they grab an item, and you got to tackle them and get into a scuffle before they run out. If they're in the glass case, however, the thieves can't grab them, so really your most valuable items should probably go in there. Now, with items, the first time you sell one, you have no clue what it's worth, and you kind of have to just play with it based on where it is in the list. You kind of know a range. You can use other items to judge its price, and you just kind of experiment until people are happy. You put it too low, they're going to get little money symbols in their eyes because they've essentially ripped you off. And if you put it too high, they'll get angry because you're trying to rip them off. There are a few things like wealthy customers that don't really care what the value of an item is. They'll buy it no matter what. Overall, the goal is, of course, just to get more money, get more upgrades, and so on. Expanding bigger and bigger, going into the harder, more valuable dungeons to get more loot, and so on. Anyway, the point is that I find Moonlighter to be an incredibly fun, charming, and addictive game. It's not complicated. The combat isn't super clever. You don't have to be the best in the world. There's nothing particularly difficult about it, but it is very fun to play, very relaxing, and I enjoyed it a lot. So I would give Moonlighter a solid recommend. Plus the music, on point.